Hey everybody, this is Matt with Octo Aquatics. I'm making this video. I've actually been meaning to make this for several years now. Just haven't had the time. And before the summer really kicks in here in Arizona, I figure I'll come out here and finally get this done for you guys. This is a video specifically on how to properly install one of my acrylic all-in-one um, false walls or a baffle kit into a sump into a glass tank or glass container, whichever you have. This has to be done a certain way for success. And honestly, if you don't do it the right way, you're going to have failure down the road. So that's why this is very important. So here's what you're going to need is you're going to need obviously some type of tank, glass tank, cutting devices, box cutter or scissors, zip ties, permanent marker, painter's tape, the actual baffle or false wall. The proper type is silicone. This is what I've used for years. I used to build glass aquariums many years ago before acrylic was really big. And I've always used the Momentum RTV 100. It's a fantastic, high quality, commercial strength adhesive. And then beverage of choice, not a sponsor. Once you have all those together, what you're going to do is you're going to put the false wall again or baffle into the tank where it should sit. Then the next step you're going to do is take a marker and you're going to draw a line across the front on the bottom glass, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second because I'm filming this by myself and holding the camera with my other hand. Okay, and there's your line. Hopefully yours looks a little better than mine. I had some issues, obviously. My fault. You can clean that up later with some rubbing alcohol and we're done. But that's going to be where approximately where you're going to place the strip of silicone for the bottom. Before you do that, you're going to want to lay zip ties down. Have those ready. Now you drew the line on the outside of the baffle. So the first strip of silicone we're going to apply here is going to be on the inside of the line because that's actually where the baffle is going to sit. So with your silicone, just lay down a generous bead of silicone. All right, so very generous bead of silicone. Then what you're going to do is take one of the zip ties, place it there, another zip tie, place it there. Next, if you have any dividers here that will go along the glass, you'll want to place a very generous bead of silicone on these edges. And there's the silicone on those dividers. We're not going for looks here. We're going for functionality, but make sure you have that generous. So when acrylic gets wet, it expands a little bit. You never want acrylic to touch the glass. You always need a little bit of a barrier in between, which is the silicone, which is a little flexible. So when the acrylic expands slightly, you don't bust your glass. In fact, if you look at any glass tank and get this to focus, you're going to notice the glass is not touching the glass. That little bit of silicone acts as a little shield barrier. So now what you're going to do is you're going to take your divider, place it right on top of that bead of silicone, and ever so slightly snug it up to the back. You don't want to squeeze out the silicone. Now with my kits, I do include this 90-degree angle there, just so you can make sure it is upright. And then I forgot to mention, you're also going to want a tape measure so you can make sure the distance here is equal on both ends. Okay, I've just confirmed the distance from here to here is the same, from here to here is the same. So what you're going to do is you're going to make sure that you press down enough on the baffle so that it is going to touch those zip ties. Remember what I said, you never want acrylic to touch glass. That's what the zip ties are for. Now if you look at the back, you'll see that the silicone is also spread out pretty evenly, going up those dividers, and that's exactly what you want. You don't want to see the dividers touching the glass. The next thing is you're going to want to make sure that the sides are not touching the glass, because that's going to be the next step, is putting silicone down there. Now I did forget a step. I told you to get painter's tape or masking tape. If you care about the line on the bottom, and I'm going to clean this up as one of the last steps, that silicone down there. But if you care about the way that looks, you can use masking tape on the baffle towards the bottom, up maybe like 1/4 of an inch or so, and then just kind of mask that off so that you don't get that goopy silicone look on the bottom. Or if you're going to put sand in your tank, you may not care. But we'll clean that up as well. I'll show you how to clean that up with a razor blade. It's pretty easy. Now the next step is to walk away. You're going to walk away for like maybe about an hour, and then come back. And we got to pull the zip ties out. You don't want the silicone to cure with the zip ties down there, otherwise you're going to have a real hard time getting them out. So you want the silicone to kind of set a little bit, firm up a little bit, and then we'll come back and pull those zip ties. Maybe I'll try back in about 30 minutes and see how that silicone is. All right, I'm back. I actually only waited about 20 minutes to see if we can pull these zip ties. When you pull them, you just want to make sure that the baffle doesn't move at all. And the set time is going to vary greatly depending on the ambient temperature. And right now it's about 85 degrees, so it didn't take very long. Cooler weather obviously will take a little bit longer. So now what you need to do is just take a little dab of silicone on your finger, smush it down where the zip ties were to fill in those gaps. And yeah, now is the hard part. I'm definitely going to recommend that you wait at least 12 hours before you move on to the next step. All right, one more thing I just wanted to add here. If you're very careful, you can now take a utility razor and clean up the bottom there, down the front of the baffle. Just be very careful. Use a brand new blade so you don't scratch that too much. The acrylic, go very, very gently. And then the bottom, is glass. So just take your time, and then when everything is all set and cured, you can go back and scrape that bottom real good. You just don't want to move that baffle at all, even by accident. Again, if you plan ahead and you want to prevent even having to worry about the actual baffle, you care about how it looks at the bottom there. You don't want to scratch it up with a razor blade. You can use that masking tape ahead of time and mask the very bottom off. Okay, so I gave that silicone overnight, at least 12 hours to set up and begin the cure process. That ensures that it doesn't move around for the next step, which is going to be the sides, siliconing the sides. I did, as you can see, use painter's tape to mask off the glass and the baffle to make it look a little nicer. Now the object here, remember I did say earlier that you don't want the acrylic to touch the glass, so there is a gap there. And what you're going to do is you're going to run a generous bead of silicone all the way in that seam, and you're going to visually look for it to squeeze in between the glass and the acrylic. That's what you want to see. So using a finger and really get it down in there as much as possible. And then once you have both sides silicone, then it's another waiting game. Give it another 12 hours. If you're a little anxious, you can probably peel off the painter's tape after a couple hours, but just be careful not to move anything. and then we'll move on to the next step. All right, and here's where we should be at this point is we have the silicone squeezed in between the false wall there and the glass. All right, so here we are next day. I did clean up the silicone a little. I'll probably go over it again with a new razor blade and get that a little more sharp. Lock line nozzle installed, and that's about it. All right, if you have any questions, comment on the video or email me through my website at octoaquatics.com. Thanks for watching.